I mean, there's quite a lot of people who listen to this who are coaches, instructors, guides, and in a lot of the world, guide and coach and instructor training still to this day in 2021 is like, stand everybody in a line. There's one way of doing it. I don't care what your starting point is. Well, we do care, but we're not going to find out. And everyone's going to do the same thing, like they're mirroring me, and then they must just go and get busy with it and go and put it into practice.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm trying to stamp out. Part of that comes down to experience level. So we know the comfort the comfort model. So you've got the comfort, stretch, danger. Our experience level as coaches is the same thing. So everything we talk about with these clients when we're managing them in the outdoors, we've got to go through that same process. So if we've got a really narrow approach, then we're staying well within our comfort zone, and our comfort zone is going to be tiny. By having that bigger comfort zone, it allows us to operate in different ways. I've got two little quotes here that I've been keeping by the side of my computer that a student came up with when we started doing, on the end of during the review of our first online core coach training that me and Dan Wilkinson ran a few weeks ago. And the candidate turned around and it was like, let me get this straight then. This is my view on what the difference between guiding, instructing, and coaching is. And it's like, if I've got one way of doing something, and that's the only way I've got of doing it, then I'm probably going to be telling them what to do or instructing them. If I've got multiple ways of achieving the same thing, which vary depending on the participants, then I'm almost certainly coaching. Now, I sort of said at that, after scribbling it down, going, wow, that's brilliant. You know, I was like, why didn't you say that 6 months ago? Because that would have been the finishing bits of our book. You know, it was one of those ones. It was like, you've just summed it up brilliantly. Ace. That is brilliant. And now I'm using it all the time.
That's
because it's a real quick way of getting it across, and people suddenly go, oh yeah, I've got to know more than one way of doing something. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because I travel. Well, before COVID, I travel around the world coaching a fair amount. Probably half the year I'm away from home, coaching different places, be it international sportsmen to level 1 coach award in paddle sports. You know, it's not level 1 anymore, but brain's gone dead. But you know what I mean.
Paddle sport instructor it is now.
That's it. Well, and that brings me on to that takes me exactly where I want to go to, is that it feels like everybody wants to be a coach. So they take the badge on the back of their t-shirt off that says instructor, and then they just go and get a marker pen and write coach on the back, but nothing's really changed. And that's actually made it harder for consumers in the adventure sports world to differentiate between who actually can coach and who actually cannot. And I know that instructing is part of coaching, but it's a necessary part, but it's kind of 10% of the whole as opposed to it being the whole.
Yeah, I think that comes down to being honest, most people don't know what having good coaching is or mediocre coaching is until they've actually been coached well. They just don't know. And I think in the 25 years or so that I've been involved in the outdoors, I've never once been asked what my qualifications were by a client. Other than just interest of so how do you go through this process and whatever. You know, at the start of a meeting with them, they've never asked me. Well, they actually don't care, I don't think.
That's interesting. Is I agree, because most people want the result that you can give them, or the problem that you can solve for them, or the experience that only you can give. You could be an orangutan, as long as you can produce the result, solve the problem, or give them the experience. They don't. You're right. I don't think they care that much.
No, and people will pick based on what they want to do. So some of the research that Chris Easterbrook's been doing to finish off his PhD, so working with Lowell Collins, part of that, Chris was looking at what people wanted from the outdoors and what their motivations were for going and having a session. And one of them was, skill development. They still want skill development. They either want skill development so they can go and do it independently, or they want to have an experience that they couldn't have necessarily themselves. So that's the one where you've got people who are time poor but cash rich that will sit there and go, here's some money, take me on an adventure. Yeah, I expect you to look after me. I expect you to have a great time. And if I learn some stuff along the way, that's all right. So if you think back to some of your trips years ago, going out to Sweden, for instance.
Yep.
Quite a few of those people were just there for the experience, and were just there to go and take me on an adventure.
That's it.
Yeah. And then other people will be choosing where they go based on sort of holistical type things. So, what's the accommodation like? What's the food like? It's a holiday for them. So they want nice things, and then to have some time with like-minded people. And that skill, and then that final group, that skill development group, that varies massively on depending on what they want. So those are those sort of things. Then they furthered that by looking at why people chose who they choose. And so part of that, it comes down to, it gets split into two sort of categories. One is the coaching behaviors. And it's like they can adapt. They can treat me as an individual. They a source of confidence, those sort of things. Then the other side of it is that they've got some credibility within their discipline or the outdoor world. So this is where shall we say, the Facebook page, social media types get quite a lot of people going to see them, because people mistake that lots of likes as credibility. But it's not always that case. But that's definitely an element, and there's other things on that sort of side of, but credibility is highly up there. They want you to be experienced. They want you to be, I said source of confidence on the other side, but actually they want you to be able to do to a point what you're trying to get them to do, especially when it's skill development.